elected by the voters, or they were not citizen-initiated petitions. They were petitions that were offered by the legislature, and that's where allowing women to vote came from. Which of these amendments proposed by state lawmakers did voters reject? There are two of them. These are the ones that come through the state legislature, and there are two of them that voters said, nah, isn't going to happen. Authorizing a poll tax to be able to vote is one of them. The legislature wanted a poll tax, and the voters said no. The other one? Okay, the other one is the last one, removing embezzlement from the disqualifiers for holding public office. Legislators said, oh, we don't need that. and voters said, yeah, we do. Okay? How many states, including Ohio, allow citizen proposals to directly amend their constitution? 17, correct. And how many states require supermajorities to pass constitutional amendments? I heard 3. 3 is correct. Supermajority is not defined the same way. I believe it's Colorado has 55%, but Ohio would be joining Florida as the two states that have the 60% majority if issue 1 passes. And then the back, I'm not going to put you through it. The back, there are no wrong answers. We just wanted to make sure you all had something in your hand that reminded you about voting, voting early, when the hours are, what IDs you need to bring to the polls. We did not want to put out any bad information on that. So every one of those answers is right. Okay? I skipped number 5. Okay, let me go back to that. Oh, I like this. You really want to know answers. Yes, I did. And actually, I lumped 2 of them together. But the thing that is not required to put a citizen-initiated amendment on the Ohio ballot, there's only one of those that is not required. Nope. You must, if you want to even consider getting an issue on the ballot in Ohio, you have to have a summary and text of what the amendment's about, and you have to have 1,000 signatures to just get started. Okay. No, the ballot board, the Attorney General has to review it for language legality. Pardon? That is, I'm sorry, I jumbled it when I printed this out. Actually, it's approval of the issue by 3/5 of lawmakers. For citizen amended petitions, the lawmakers don't have a say. So that's what that one is. And then I lumped it together, as you just noted, with the petition signed by voters equal to 10% of the votes cast in the last gubernatorial race. So I apologize for that. Maybe that's why I skipped over issue 5. Number 5. All right. Thank you for doing this and for getting a lot of good answers, a lot of the right answers. What we're hoping to do tonight is to take what you know and what you think you know and make sure you're confident in your understanding by beginning the night with a presentation from Attorney Rosemary Rubin about how we have the Constitution we have now, which, remember, goes back 112 years. So she will pick up now, and she will be followed by Pastor Parsons. Thank you. It is. you. And we were free, so.
But it had to have, enough for the room.
Got it. Our next speaker is the Reverend Brenda Parsons of the Father's House and the Center for Christian Virtue.
Because Like I said, that's to amend our constitution. It has nothing to do with citizen-driven ballot initiatives. Now, to put an amendment on our constitution right now, we have to have signatures from 44 counties. Well, we have 88 counties in the state of Ohio. And this initiative will require that we have 5% of the people that voted in the last governor election, in the previous governor election, from all 88 counties. Right now, that isn't a majority, that's half of it. And what's happening is our rural communities are having no voice in our government. They're having no voice. Because what happens if they want a certain initiative, they'll go to the local county or the conservative county or whatever county suits their issue is what they'll do. So what we do when we elect our legislators is we elect them to stand in our place in front of the lobbyists and the special interest groups. We elect them to stand. So because these special interest groups or whoever wants to pass their amendment knows that only 3 to 6% of voters show up for city elections, for school board elections, and then if there's an election for officials, only 8% show up. So they count on that. Rather than facing one person in a majority rule to stand as their voice, they're going to jump over them and try to really hoodwink the voter, is what they do. Because when you have special interest groups that can douse money into an issue, we voted against them 4 times in the last 20 years, but we have 8 because they have the most money. Even the idea that it's not special interest groups that are against this issue is laughable because they are the very ones that this will protect us, our amendment, our constitution against, is the special interest groups. Now, so it will truly be, when you require signatures from all 88 counties and 5%, you're truly going to get a majority. If they're going to jump over our representative, then they should have to face a true super majority to pass their initiative. They should be able to pass it with 3% or 6% of the people that show. They should absolutely, before it even gets on the ballot, give those rural communities a voice. Now, we are stating that this is a pro-life issue. And no, it doesn't say anything about abortion on this issue. No, it doesn't. But
Thank you. Our next, please hold your applause for the end, please. Our next speaker is Carol Canavan with the League of Women Voters, which has come out in opposition to Issue 1.
So yes, I'm representing the vote of no on issue one side of the House. I'm sorry, Brenda, but I really had trouble hearing all of what you said, so if I seem to have disjointed them, but Herbert's comments will please forgive me. I'm going to just go with my straight talk, and then we'll have a chance to Q&A to follow up. Okay, thank you. I think the context for my remarks has probably been pretty well set, but I would like to use a quote from Benjamin Franklin. When he emerged from the Constitutional Convention many years ago, a citizen asked him, "So what kind of government are you giving us?" And he replied, "Democracy, if you can keep it." A democracy if you can keep it. And that takes the engagement of all the citizens of our country to pay attention to know what's going on. And I commend all of you for being here tonight because we all care about our government, we all care about what's happening in this country, and we want to see it prosper and move forward. However, the founders in 1787 couldn't imagine the tremendous pressure that would rise from special interest groups and the unending amount of advertising and money that would go into social media posts and fear-mongering and various tactics to really confuse us and not help us to really understand what is important and what's going on. I once followed a young man down the hall at a voter registration event because he was telling me, "I'm not registered, but I want to get registered." And I was trying to convince him, "Do you understand? This is how democracy works. You need to be registered. You need to go and vote." Many of our young people, and probably a lot of the rest of us too, are tired of some of the shenanigans that go on, and are not sure what our vote really counts. Oops. So, a little bit about the League. We were founded in the year that the 19th Amendment was passed. We were founded because our foremothers knew that people needed information. They needed to understand what the political candidates were saying, what they were standing for, what they were advocating. They needed to understand what the issues were that they would be voting on. And so the League of Women Voters is really an educational organization. We hold forums, forums that we participate in, and we try to make sure that everybody knows a good amount of information, probably on any issue. When we do take a stand on an issue, it's because we study it very carefully, because it is very linked to making democracy work, which is our tagline. We believe that every citizen deserves to have their vote heard or registered or counted. And when we feel that there are issues that are happening that are potentially taking that joy away, we are very concerned. So what is issue 1? Well, I think you've heard a little bit about it. It's going to require a supermajority. A supermajority is 60%, and it eliminates You have to come in or a certain date. You stand up in front of the grocery store, wherever you might be, outside the library in my case. You greet people and ask them to sign your petition. And you have to get over 400,000 of those signed currently to get sent in. I'm having to draw out. After the signatures are collected, they're sent in, and of course they have to be approved by the Secretary of State's office. They compare people's signatures, they compare whether they sign with the right county. Everything has to be very carefully attuned. And if they're successful, and they don't have to do additional signatures in the year period, then it will be up for put on being put on the ballot. Okay, sorry. This is a little bit of a comparison here to what I just. So, in our view, this is a real affront to democracy. It is a real taking away of voters' rights. And it seems like that's the way things have been going lately. More and more chipping away at what we can do with our government. And that's very disturbing. We want to make sure that voters have a say, that you do, as I said earlier, be here tonight, give it very careful consideration, pray that that's one of your things, and decide how you want to vote. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to tell you what I believe is the right thing to do. You have to decide that for yourself. There's additional challenges with this election because it was put on the ballot, but it was put on the schedule so late. In December, the legislature decided they weren't going to have any more of these August elections. And that was because the turnout was so bad, and people didn't care, they didn't know that. And here we are with, well, it's going to serve our purpose to have an August election, so therefore, let's have it. So if your friends don't know that we are having an election, would you please make sure they do? Because that's pretty critical. And of course, there are ways that you can get to the polls early and what have you. But think about the poor election workers too, and how many people are trying to get rounded up in order to be at the polls on election day. Never mind the fact that we can order pre-registration, pre-election, early election. So
Carol,
those things have to be staffed.
Carol, I do need to cut you off. We're up to 10 minutes plus. So obviously, we will have plenty of room for discussion, for questions about some of the specifics that were raised. First off, again, this is one of those times to applaud all three of our speakers for presenting. We now have some folks from St. Paul's who will be walking around collecting your cards with your questions. Just raise your hand in the air. If anybody does not have a card and would like one, by all means, please flag one of those same people and say, I need a card. There are pencils, if you don't have one, in each of the pews. One of the perks of being the moderator is that I get to ask some of the questions while they're collecting those cards. So I have some for all of you. I'm going to start, Rosemary, with you. It's more of a technical question because I think people are really confused when they hear amendment and referendum, and this only affects one of the two. Can you outline for us what difference does it make if it's an amendment or it's a referendum? Structurally, what difference does it make?
Is this on? Yeah. Okay. I'm not quite sure that I know the distinction. A referendum usually is something that's already is already legislation, and we're voting whether to keep it or not. But I'm going to ask some of my league member friends who are here if they know the distinction. An initiative petition is to get something in the and it can be for amendments to the legislation. It can be legislative amendments or constitutional amendments. But a legislative amendment would be a law that could then be overturned or repealed. Constitutional amendment would be permanent if it was enacted. But as you can see, over the last 100+ years, initiative petitions by citizens, we've only had, what, 17, or what was the number that was in my notes? It hasn't been very many, and they've been very important issues.
Okay.
Like gerrymandering and minimum wage, those are really important issues. But if there's somebody in the audience that could make a distinction between the initiative petition and a referendum, I would be happy to take that definition, because I can't really give you that distinction.
Do you want to pass it down to Carol to split the answer? You got 15 seconds. Okay. Okay. All right.
I was close.
Pastor Parsons, one of the claims of supporters of Issue 1 is that it would stop special interests from putting money into Ohio elections. How would it do that?
What was the first
That Issue 1 would stop special money, outside money, special interests from putting their thumb on the scales of Ohio's amending the Constitution.
Well, it's not going to stop because special interests have unlimited pockets, which we know to be true because we have 172 amendments to the Ohio Constitution. But what it will do is it will make it harder for them. How many like to pay when you go to buy something in the store? Do you want to pay more for it? No, you don't. So this will make it harder for them. It will cost them more money. So whether or not they want to do that, and plus, with the second part of it, it's going to allow, like I said, when they have to bypass our legislature, the person that's supposed to represent us, then they are truly going to have to get a majority consensus, majority support before they can put it on the ballot. So it won't stop them. No, they have unlimited funds, but it will slow them down and it will make it harder. And this amendment, in my opinion, truly doesn't benefit anyone except the constituents, us, we the people, because we truly will get a majority, a super majority before they put an amendment on our Constitution.
Okay. And remember, if any of you want to add anything to a question, just raise your hand and we'll get the mic to you. Here's a question from the audience. After 100 years, what is the urgent need to have a special election in August instead of, I'm consolidating several questions, a special election in August instead of leaving it for a general election ballot where the turnout is much higher?
There is no reason.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
After 100 years of the Constitution as it is, why the urgent need for a special election instead of allowing this to be decided at a much higher turnout general election?
Well, like I said, CCB has been trying to get this on the ballot forever. Frank LaRose, our Secretary of State, tried to get it in the last day's ballot, but because of the change in the Speaker of the House, who was not very enthusiastic about it at the time, but once they all realized this grievous abortion ballot was coming in November, they knew that important of an issue should have a supermajority, and that is why.
Okay. This question is directed specifically to you, Pastor Parsons. What is the Center for Christian Virtue? What do you represent?
Center for Christian Virtue, and I'm not employed by them, I'm just the Stark County representative. Robert here is from CCB, and CCB is located in Columbus, Ohio, and it is a policy-making, Christian policy-making organization that is located there. They lobby Congress, they keep us informed of moral issues that we will want to know about, and other issues that are passing in the State House. Good description, Brother Robert?
Excellent. Do you want me to add 30 more seconds?
No. We're trying to keep it to the folks up here, though generally we absolutely would love you to converse afterward with each other. Carol, the bar to amend the U.S. Constitution is much higher than that proposed by Issue 1 for the Ohio Constitution. Why shouldn't it be as hard to amend the Ohio Constitution as it is the U.S.?
Say that last again.
Why shouldn't it be as hard to amend the Ohio Constitution as it is the U.S. Constitution?
Well, as I understand it, and I actually got this the other night from a judge in another panel discussion, the federal Constitution is sort of an overarching document. You know, things that are in the Constitution, the federal Constitution, are things that we all have to follow throughout our society. But also turn over power to the states. You know, we have states' rights. And that is why state constitutions are very lengthy, because people are more involved in making the fine detail of how we want to live our lives here in the state of Ohio. And then underneath that, of course, there are other laws, other organizations like cities and counties and townships that have additional rules and regulations that they live by. So the federal constitution you can carry it around in your pocket. In fact, I thought of bringing mine tonight. But the Ohio Constitution is very voluminous because there have been all of these things that have had to be dealt with over the years. You know, we had a law on, let's say prohibition, although that was obviously federal. But then a few years later, you decide that didn't work so well, so you need to change it. So things happen. That the rules, the laws have to be adjusted as time adjusts. We are not living in 1787. We're living in 2023.
Can I add to that a little bit? Somebody else wanted to add to it? You remember when Tip O'Neill was Speaker of the House? I guess I'm old enough to remember. A lot of you look like you're with me. He said, remember, all politics is local. The closer the citizenry is to the issue, the more it affects us. And that's a circular issue. I mean, if it's important to us, it comes home to roost. And so it's very important that we have a flexible document. Yes, it's a framework. Yes, it should be important to all the citizens too, if they're going to amend it. But when we send our legislators to Columbus and they don't do what we ask them to do, and there's all kinds of reasons for that, the citizens need to have a mechanism to vest the power back to the electorate. I know that some of the people who are wanting this to be a higher threshold are really worried about gun legislation. Well, as important as some of the other issues are, so is that, safety. Look at the initiative petition that passed when the citizens wanted to have safety considered in bail. Now, a lot of us in the legal community thought that was not going to work because there are so many other things you have to consider in bail. But citizens were worried that offenders who were violent would get out on bail. And they wanted the population, the people, to say, no, you have to consider the environment, the community when you're setting bail. And the legislature didn't want to do that because most of them are lawyers. And like me, we thought that wasn't a great idea because we're talking about the rights of the accused. But the citizens said, oh no, you've got to consider it, and it passed. So there's just an example of something that when the legislature is, as I said, reticent to address an issue that the citizenry really thinks is important, the initiative petition should be there, and it should be by a majority. That's hard enough to get.
That leads to two other questions which are kind of opposite sides of the same coin. Shirley.
Once again, this issue has nothing to do with citizen-led initiatives and referendums. It has to do with amending the Constitution. And the difference between, you asked earlier, which I didn't know I was allowed to comment on, what the difference between an amendment and a law was. And I have an article here, and it says, because the Constitution is general framework structuring operating government, outlining the obligations and limitations of its power, including protections for the fundamental rights of its citizens. Laws, on the other hand, are a set of specific rules to govern the behavior of people. The people's will is translated into law through elected representatives who answer to their constituents. And then this, like I said, this does not negate the right of citizens to have citizen-led initiatives.
This is great the way instincts are working, because another question I've got here is that is the question of whether a citizen initiative that changes a law can be changed back again or differently by the legislature.
If it's legislation, yes, it can be changed by the legislature. But but they have to go through the regular process. If it's a constitutional amendment, it would not be able to be.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I guess you can amend it again.
Exactly, that's what happened with.
Well, that's what happened with prohibition in the federal constitution.
All right, let's move on.
That's what happened with casinos too.
This is kind of opposite sides of the question about majority-minority. A couple people actually raised the question of 44 counties is half. Why shouldn't it be a majority of Ohio counties, if not all 88? Carol, I'm going to put that one to you.
Say again?
Right now, the signatures need to be collected from 44 Ohio counties, which is half. Why not a majority of Ohio counties, if not 88?
Well, that's not the issue.
No, below it.
Keep pushing that yellow button, I think. Did it run out of battery?
It shouldn't have.
The magic touch.
It knows you.
Well, why not? I mean, that's not what it is. I mean, that's not what, I mean, it's not being proposed. If they had written it that way, maybe that would be more palatable, but it's not written that way.
Okay. Well, why don't we pass it down?
Do you want to speak to that?
I totally agree, why not? If they want to bypass the majority voted elected representative who's supposed to represent the majority, they should have to answer to the true majority.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the 44 counties is where we collect the petitions in order to get it on the ballot. We still would have to pass it once it gets on the ballot. Now, population centers in this state are not in all 88 counties. We have lots of counties that have very small populations, and I know we're talking about the rural counties, but they can't achieve the 5% in that county. That doesn't mean that they don't have petitions signed in that county. They just aren't necessarily going to have enough people to circulate petitions and reach the 5%. But they might get 15% in Columbus or Cleveland. So if you say it has to be all 88 counties, one county could thwart it for the entire state. What if we had some little tiny county that was not able to organize like we did here in Stark County? I don't know whether any of you saw the people who were out working on this petition drive, but they were amazing, and we got way more signatures than we needed in this county. So that's why they put this in for the August election. There was no reason except a power grab. And so the idea that they want to make it 88 counties, I mean, maybe they could have said we need 50 counties. That might have been a little more palatable. But 88 means one county in the whole state could thwart this for everyone. That's not majority rule.
Pastor Parsons?
Well, I think that's a little bit hypocritical because you say that one person speaking for 50% of the electorate is the majority, but one county is not.
I never said one person was 50%.
Please hold your applause.
Is this
Okay.
I don't know if this is
No, but we do, the question that is related to that one is, why shouldn't a simple majority be enough to pass a constitutional amendment as it has been for 111 and 112 on these two different cards, years? Why shouldn't a simple majority be enough? Carol?
It is enough. It is absolutely what our history has been. It is what we always talk about, majority rule. But as Rosemary said, if one county could blow the whole thing out of the water, how is that majority rule? And think about it, if you're a sports fan, think about this. If Ohio State was playing Michigan, and Michigan had 41 points, and Ohio State had 59, is my math right? Ohio State would lose, Michigan would win in this scenario.
one person is speaking for the whole other 50% of the electorate. So to me, if you're going to bypass a majority elected representative, you should truly have to go for a true supermajority.
Assuming those were really representing us.
Let's leave redistricting for another time. This is a question for, I guess it would be for you, Carol. If issue 1 does not pass, will out-of-state special interest groups be able to weigh in and change our laws?
Special interest groups are going to weigh in wherever they think they can weigh in. It's been happening, well, since Citizens United. If you're aware, in 2010, the Supreme Court came down and said businesses and people with lots of money can just spend it however they want in campaigns. And so therefore, we have a lot of pressing the finger on the scale in every place you can imagine. And sometimes you know who these donors are on these issues, and sometimes you don't. And it's very disturbing. A lot of us are very concerned about the big money in politics. We can't seem to pass campaign finance laws. It just keeps going on and on. So, it's a problem.
Anything else?
That's the truth.
Okay.
We agree on that. Special interest groups got lots of money.
All right. Several people have questions for the league specifically, and there's drawing a parallel between the leagues and I believe Pastor Parson raised the Democratic Party. Why require a supermajority in those worlds, in your own bylaws, changing your own bylaws, and not with the Constitution of the state?
Is there someone out there who can answer this better than I can? I haven't really been in the league forever. Connie?
I'm sorry. The question, I have a tendency to look at people when I'm asking them a question. The question is, with the League of Women Voters, a simple majority is not enough to change the bylaws. With the Democratic Party, a simple majority is not enough to change the bylaws. Why not apply those same standards to the Constitution?
Give Connie the mic.
Well, that's a problem, because I cut somebody else off who didn't. Right. So we're not passing the mic. But I would, Connie, from the League of Women Voters, after we're done, you're welcome to put that question to her. We do want to keep it to our
I
speakers.
think one of the things that can be said is that we're not a government. We are an organization, we're just a club, if you will. And so you have a lot more control over your organization when it's a private, personal thing, not a government. Obviously, our government really deserves a lot more oversight. I'm sure most of you maybe have not known what the League of Women Voters was before. Now you do. But you don't meddle in our business any more than we want to meddle in yours. So it's a different kind of organization, I think is the answer.
Okay.
I don't know, but I have to think that the Ohio Constitution is a little bit more important than the Ohio Women Voters Constitution.
Okay. Anything else? All right. The next question is this, as I shouldn't say all about, but your opening comments, Pastor Parsons, drew a direct connection between this issue and abortion. Is that what this is all about?
No, it's not what it's all about, but it is why I believe that we have a special, well, not really, no. It's not what it's all about. There was a lot of special interest groups who have stated their agendas to legalize recreational marijuana, to take away to change the voting legislation that we just passed about requiring a photo ID and putting drop boxes all over. I mean, yes, the abortion issue is crucial for this November, and especially since Roe versus Wade was just overturned. Every state is scrambling to try and get their verbiage about abortion, and this one is just particularly very egregious because, like I said, it does not protect for the women that is even having an abortion to have good health care. because the treating physician could be the physician at the Planned Parenthood. It does take away parental rights because it says no no person's rights over their reproductive organs shall be infringed upon, or the person that's assisting them. If you go to the ACLU's website that wrote this egregious abortion issue, they state right on their website they want to legalize, decriminalize, as the article says, decriminalize adult sex work and minor sex work. That is sex. It is on there. I have the printout. I have it printed. They say
Okay.
I think you raised the wrong question.
Let's-
decriminalize child sex work.
Again, please be respectful.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's coming in November.
Let's,
That's what they're trying.
we are not debating the reproductive rights amendment right now. We are asking about the direct relationship between these two. Several questions here, and I'd ask each of you to address it. What does the change from a 50% plus one voter requirement for a majority to a 60% majority do to the representation of citizens in their government in Ohio? And Carol, I'm going to ask you to start with that.
Would you repeat that? I'm sorry.
What does the requirement that citizen petitions meet 60%, I'm going back and forth because there's two questions here, meet 60% rather than 50% plus one, a majority going up to a supermajority? What does that do to the ability of voters to participate in their state government in Ohio?
Well, I think it will have a dramatic effect in that the idea of putting forward a citizen's petition will probably just be abandoned because the work will be so cumbersome.
For an amendment, they will, but not for a citizen-led
They're not
initiative.
going to be any different. They're not going to be any
Okay.
different.
Please speak to the audience.
Yeah, I'm sorry for that.
I think the tagline that we've seen on some of the vote no signs, that it's one person, one vote, sums it up. If we have majority rule, which is what democracy is all about, and there is a legitimate ballot issue, amendment, or legislation that has been proposed, gone through the rigorous process, and is on the ballot, to have a minority thwart the will of the majority it's not what our Constitution, federally or statewide, would permit. We need to have every citizen's vote count. And if my vote doesn't count as much as the person who's voting opposite me, and 40% can overrule 60% or 59%, then it will affect the votes. So one vote per person means that it has to be a majority. I think Carol's analogy that if, Michigan got 41 points and Ohio State got 59 and then Michigan won, that we all, if we're sports fans, we would be saying, whoa, wait a minute, that doesn't work. It's almost like putting a filibuster into our election, and we all know how that's working in the Senate. A minority cannot control what the rest of the citizenry wants, and if this passes, that's one of the major issues that's going to be affected.
If this passes, 60% will not 40%. 40%, right? 60% majority to pass, not 40%.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're taking the questions through the cards. Thank you. If the no vote prevails, will there be any controls put in place to stop out-of-state money, advertising, and influence in Ohio?
Has nothing to do with it. There's nothing. We have to get Citizens United overturned. That's not possible.
Okay.
That's on the federal level.
Several of you took issue with Carol's characterization of us as a democracy, which I guess would also be a problem with my intro, saying that we are a republic and that's what Ben Franklin was talking about. So I just want to note that came in several cards.
Democratic Republic. We're a constitutional republic. We're also a democracy.
So, two more questions. One is a very specific one. Pastor Parsons, are there any of the 19 amendments that passed by less than 60% that you think are bad for Ohio, and why? Any of the 19 citizen-initiated petition amendments that have passed in Ohio?
I would have to say I don't know what all 19 are.
Okay.
So,
Are there any issues that have passed that you think are bad for Ohio?
well, no, but the stance of the opponents is that they would never be laws, which they would be laws, they just wouldn't be amendments to the Constitution. They would be passed through the legislature.
Any other response to that?
Well, if you're
Excuse me.
talking to me, I didn't know I wasn't allowed to have an opinion.
Okay.
I won't answer it then.
Okay.
What was the question?
Are there any of the 19 amendments, citizen-initiated petition amendments, that have passed by less than 60% that you think are bad for Ohio? Or conversely, that would not have passed under this structure that you think Ohio would be bad for not having?
Well, I would be sorry to see the minimum wage not pass. That was below 60%. I don't remember exactly. I had the list on the slide. I don't remember exactly all of them. I'm questioning casinos. I mean, I'm not really excited about casinos in Ohio. Maybe that's one of the...
Yeah, gambling.
Another point of agreement.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Anything to add to that, Pastor Parsons? Okay. All right. There are some more questions here, but in general, what we've tried to do is group the ones that are about similar issues and ask them in that way. I think there are some points of agreement here. There are obviously some very strong feelings on multiple sides of this issue. What does, again, seem to be shared is the need for Ohio voters to take seriously the right they've got and to make a difference in their government. And the most direct way to do it is at the ballot box. This will be on the ballot on August 8th. It is the only issue on the ballot. There is nothing else there. Statewide, it will be on every person's ballot. Early voting has already begun. Early voting takes the form of both mail-in ballots and in-person ballots, and you can take your mail-in ballots and drop them off, so you can do a little bit of both. So you actually have three options to do this. There are extended hours coming up for voting. This was a start on our part to try to understand a complex issue and to try to get it out there with all of you. It hopefully is not the finish. There is a lot of material to be read on this, a lot of fact-checking you can do pretty easily. And that's not always easy, but it is your responsibility as voters. And we hope you'll all embrace it. And I want to thank our speakers for coming here and sharing their points of view. I think all of us will leave a little better informed and hopefully a lot more intrigued about what Issue 1 is all about. Thank you. And again, there are some people who are in the audience who are willing to speak to some of those issues. We ask that you maintain the same rules as far as respecting each other and being courteous. Thank you. Thank you again. Did you get the cotton mouth taken care of? Thank you.